Thank you, everybody. Please be seated. Well, members, for those here and those watching, it's me again, despite I didn't think it would be. So I welcome you all to the meeting tonight, and those in the public gallery and those watching on the live stream. As I said, firstly, I'm chairing the meeting today as Marco, the Mayor, is still recovering from his little bout of illness. So I'd like to also now please welcome the Mayor's Chaplain, Father Seelan, who will be saying prayers this evening. And also to report first, members, it's with great sadness that I must report the passing of Anne-Marie Martyr. Anne-Marie worked in the shared transaction services as an accounts payable officer from the 1st of June 2015 and transferred into PCC from the Serco on the 1st of April 2024. Sadly, she passed away on Saturday, the 1st of March, in the night at Thorpe Hall, where she'd been for the last few weeks. It is also with sadness that I report the loss of Jason Merrill, a friend of ours and many here, well known in the disability community and a parish councillor in Breton for 18 years. Well known, much respected. He passed away last Friday. Jason, as I said, was a parish councillor and also the chair of Family Voice until recently. So I'd now like to invite members to join in a minute's silence for Anne-Marie and Jason, and perhaps we should stand for this, folks. Members, if you could remain standing, I deliberately switched the order there before introducing Father Seelan, who will be saying prayers this evening, so he could include those that we just took a minute's silence for. Father Seelan, would you like to take over?
As we gather today in this council chamber, we humbly seek your guidance and wisdom. As we embark on our work for betterment of our city of Peterborough, be with us, inspiring our discussions and decisions. May we always strive to act with integrity and compassion. We pray for unity among all members of this council, that we may work together harmoniously, putting aside our differences, focusing on the common good. May our decisions reflect the need and aspirations of all residents. May we always seek to serve with humility and dedication. We ask for your blessings on all our endeavors. We pray that our work will bring positive change and prosperity to our beloved city. May the council decisions be guided by your light. May they bring peace and prosperity to our beloved city. We pray for our leaders and for strength and courage they need to face the challenges that lie ahead. We ask for your guidance as we seek to build a better future for all.
Thank you very much. Members, please be seated. We've got a busy agenda as usual tonight, but hopefully the use of the pink card, by the way, just before we move on, please have an explanation why you want to use the pink card rather than waving it around, and have some notion as to which part of the Constitution you're waving the pink card around from. Because last time we overindulged ourselves in pink cards. Noted, everybody. Okay. I'll now hand over to Rachel Edwards, the Head of Constitutional Services, to go through some housekeeping points as usual, folks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to all present, please ensure that all mobile phones are set to silent. In the event of an evacuation, please exit through the nearest doors at each of the end of the chamber, following council staff to the assembly point. As per Council Standing Order 28.1, if you wish to speak, please ensure that you raise your hand and you'll be invited to address the meeting. The Deputy Mayor has confirmed that when addressing the chamber, he is happy for members to stand or stay seated, whichever they feel comfortable. All votes today will be taken via an electronic voting system. If a recorded vote is requested, this will be taken in the normal way. As the Deputy Mayor says, there is a points document on your table. If you wish to raise a point, please raise the pink document and address the Mayor accordingly, stating which point you are raising. Finally, I would like to remind members that this meeting is being live streamed, so please ensure that you use your microphone when you speak. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Agenda item 1. Neil, are there any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. There are apologies from the Mayor, Councillor Seresti, Councillor Imtiaz Ali, Councillor Blakemore-Creedon, Councillor Geraghty, Councillor Jenkins, Councillor Mahmood and Councillor Sabir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, agenda item... Oh, Councillor Judy Fox and Councillor Ormston.
Sorry, I couldn't hear. Councillor Gavin Elsey. I don't think you've got him. Have you got him down?
I don't think his name was read out. I didn't hear it, but would you like us to add him?
Yes. Put his apologies in, please.
Same point. Sorry, I should have checked. Is there anybody else that wasn't on the list? Okay, fine. Councillor Elsey is noted. So, agenda item 2 then, are there any declarations of interest from members and officers this evening which are not already recorded separately on your individual register of interests? I don't see anyone. Right, okay. So, members, a general dispensation has also been granted for all members tonight should they have any pecuniary interest that enables them to debate and vote on the report of the Independent Remuneration Panel later on in the agenda tonight. Nothing from nobody there? Right, okay. So, agenda item 3, I would like to move approval of the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of February. Do I have a seconder? I believe that's Dennis Jones.
I'm happy to second, Mr Deputy Mayor, thank you.
If there's no objection or corrections from anybody, we'll take that as agreed. Right, okay. Agenda item 4, Mayor's announcements. So on behalf of the Mayor, I have some events I would like to highlight for you tonight. The Mayor would like to invite you to join him for the following events, organised to raise funds for his nominated charities. On Saturday the 5th of April, you can enjoy pasta making at the Italian Community Centre. On Saturday the 17th of May, you can enjoy the food and music of the Mayor's finale ball at the Holiday Inn West. Email or ring the Mayor's office for more details. There is a list already circulating, and some of you, if I stare at you hard enough, are on that list to book a table. I won't name everybody. I think I named enough there, just with the stare. Also, can I also pass on thanks on behalf of the Mayor to Mohammed Jangir, who is organising an Easter egg tombola in San Martin House on the 3rd of April, with funds raised going also to the Mayor's charity. Your contributions, as ever, would be appreciated also. And a big thank you to everybody that attended the event last night, the curry at Kathmandu, in the Old Bank, just on Church Street. A good night was all. Some of the members in the gallery were also there, and some members from here were also there, so greatly appreciated. So we'll go on to agenda item number 5, which is leaders' announcements. Councillor Dennis Jones, I understand that you wish to make an announcement this evening. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. To begin with, I'd like to extend a message of thanks from myself on behalf of the whole council to Eleanor Kelly, who is here this evening and to the entire membership of the Independent Improvement and Assurance Panel. Tonight, later in the agenda, we'll consider the final report on our progress before we part ways at the end of the month. In so many ways, this council is unrecognisable to the organisation it was back then, and the members of the panel deserve recognition for this, along with staff and members too. Their advice and challenge has always been constructive, and they've worked alongside us as a critical friend to help drive forward our improvement plan. We know there are challenges remaining, as the report from the panel makes it abundantly clear, but we will continue to look at how we can work differently to meet those challenges. Moving on, I'm delighted to say that the full business case for the Peterborough Station Quarter development have now been submitted to government. This is a major milestone and subject to approval, of course, but we hope we can start work later in the summer on the City Link, which will better connect people from the current station buildings towards Cowgate. Projects of this size are once in a generation, and I'd like to thank all involved for their hard work, not least our project partners on the Combined Authority, LNER and Network Rail. In the past few weeks, we've had some good news from yet more government funding coming to Peterborough. At Cabinet tomorrow, we'll be discussing a further extension of the Household Support Fund, with our latest allocation of £3.2 million will be able to continue supporting those most in need. £137,000 is coming our way for improvements at the museum, which includes a new lift, and we're working collaboratively with the Friends of the Museum, including look at how we can bring in additional income, so this extra funding is indeed most welcome. Two of our primary schools, John Henry Newman at Hampton and Northborough Primary, will both receive funding to run breakfast clubs aimed at improving school attendance, educational performance and attainment. There's also new powers, keeping with the theme of what's happening in Parliament, the Parliament introduced its new crime and policing bill, including the bill and new powers to seize motor vehicles, including e-bikes and e-scooters, which are being used in an antisocial manner. There are new powers relating to knife crime. Last week, I was pleased to attend an event at the Town Hall to launch a new community project aimed at improving diagnosis and spreading awareness of kidney disease. By working with people from at-risk communities, Kidney Research UK, based in nearby Stuart House, aims to raise awareness and improve early detection. Local volunteers who are representative of the at-risk communities, such as ethnic minorities, will be trained to deliver kidney health talks and empower people to take charge of their kidney health. The charity is calling for support from local businesses, faith leaders and community groups to help deliver this project. Please get in touch if you can help. I'd also like to recognise a couple of our teams who've been shortlisted for prestigious awards. Our Highways team, in partnership with Milestone, have been nominated for the LGC Award in the Public-Private Partnership category for delivering excellence in highway maintenance. This isn't the first time those who maintain our beleaguered roads have been nominated, so well done to the team and good luck for the ceremony on the 11th of June. In addition, our adult social care team have been shortlisted for the Up-and-Coming Innovation Award at the 2025 iTech Awards. Their nomination is in recognition of our Hey Geraldine app, one of the latest technology solutions. The winner will be announced on Monday. And finally, a reminder about the ongoing, fundraising appeal at the Cathedral. With just a couple of weeks remaining till the end of March, fundraising at the Cathedral continues to raise £300,000 to keep the building and our city asset remaining open as it does now. If you can help or know somebody who can, do please get in touch. Ending on a personal note, I'd like to thank those members who have helped this administration and, by turn, Peterborough City Council by representing the Council on Combined Authority and the Eastern Shires Purchasing Organisation. They are commitment and a thief of time we may wish to spend on ourselves and our loved ones. Your support has not gone unnoticed. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Jones, who has a special day today, by the way. volunteers for the bumps?
Not the bumps. Not
After the
bumps.
meeting, it's Dennis's birthday today, so we wish him happy. I don't think we'll sing happy birthday. We won't put the public through that, but I'm sure we wish him happy birthday. And apparently, he said drinks are on him afterwards in the shed to mark his centenary, isn't it, nearly? Okay, Councillor
Just
Fruit.
looks like it.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and happy birthday, Councillor Jones. To begin, may I take this opportunity to thank Councillor Irene Walsh for her services to this council and Peterborough community. We wish her well and a better health going forward. May I also take this opportunity to wish happy retirement to one of the staffs, Judy Anderson, who all members have received email today for her services for 41 years in highways. Secondly, Mr Mayor, Deputy Mayor, we would also like to thank Eleanor and rest of the improvement panel for all their work in the past 2 years and their guidance as we come to an end of this project at the end of the month. The financial challenges still remain, and we must continue to look at more innovative ways of delivering services and increasing the income. We welcome the progress made on the station quarter development and look forward to the improvements this will deliver to our residents. Mr Deputy Mayor, we also welcome the continuation of the Household Support Fund for our vulnerable residents. I am delighted that school in my ward, St John Henry Newman Primary School, will use this funding to run Breakfast Club, where Councillor Howard and myself visited recently, and it's very much needed there. This will have a significant impact on children's attendance, attainment and well-being. Along with yourself, Mr Deputy Mayor, and I was also pleased to attend the Kidney Health Talk and raise flag last week. Awareness and early diagnosis is crucial, as nearly 18,000 people in Peterborough suffer from this horrible disease. We congratulate our Highway and Adult Social Care team for being shortlisted for awards for their work and wish them good luck. We fully support the plea from the Dean from the Cathedral for funding for the Cathedral and continue to believe that the Church of England should make up the shortfall. And finally, Mr Deputy Mayor, may I congratulate our Muslim community on Ramadan, and in a few weeks' time there's going to be Eid, and happy Eid to everybody and the members here. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Allen, please, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I'm happy to join you in, I'm happy to join the leader in thanking Eleanor Cayley for the improvement panel work. I'm sure we all recognise the huge strides we've achieved under their guidance as a reliable yet critical friend. There are, of course, challenges remaining, which we'll address in a positive manner. The station quarter development is crucial to the city's future, and as you say, this project is of once-in-a-lifetime opportunity nature, which, with our partners, we must get right. The promise of government funding is always welcome, and the direction of the recent funding towards Household Support Fund, long overdue improvements to the museum and the primary schools at Hampton and Northborough, all are well-deserved recipients. With reference to your parliamentary happenings comment, the Crime and Policing Bill does indeed bring forward important measures to deal with issues of concern to many in our city. Powers to tackle knife crime, the seizure of motor vehicles and e-bikes and scooters being used in an antisocial manner, and increased penalties for those involved in selling dangerous weapons. They're all most welcome. Good to see our Highways team, together with Milestone, again receive a nomination for excellence in the management of that provision, and well done to the Adult Social Care team for their shortlisting in the up-and-coming Innovation Award. Now, at this stage, I was going to turn to the leader and say, before I conclude, I think we need to make you aware of a new and growing group in the chamber. I don't think at this stage you or the officers need to have any major concerns with regard to proportionality, but I can declare that Councillor Ormston and I are very much aligned on this. And only at the end of last week did I learn that we had recently been joined by Councillor Blakemore-Creedon. I refer, of course, to the miniature dachshund owners cohort. And if any of you out there own a little dashie, I want you to come out now as an owner of the said dog. I don't foresee any concerns as a group. We will have too many demands with you, but maybe a bring my doggy to council request could be forthcoming at some stage. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
And thank you. I should confess that Mrs Fitzgerald has already been to view said dash hounds. No decision has been finalised. Councillor Hogg, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. And thanks to Eleanor Kelly and the panel for their hard work and assistance in transforming our council. We may not see eye to eye on all things, all up elections to name one, but that doesn't mean your opinion isn't respected and understood. I look forward to the agenda item on your report later on. We are pleased to see an extension to the Household Support Fund, especially after recent government changes that mean vulnerable families will be further struggling with their household budgets. We are pleased to see government helping the police with tackling antisocial behaviour in our area. There really needs to be some clarity on e-scooters and have proper legislation in place. On a personal level, I'm looking forward to getting the long-promised PSPO in place for Pleasure Fair Meadow Car Park to help the police tackle the antisocial element of car meets. So pleased for Stephen Taylor and his team to get recognition for the use of AI to help adult social care, reduce admin and free up time for more time with clients. I'm happy to see that Sarah Wilson and the team at the museum are able to get funding for the new lift. The existing one is probably eligible to qualify as an exhibit. Last week, we saw the launch of the Flag Fen Futures with a wide attendance across heritage, political, academic and visitor economy sectors. This was about securing a sustainable future for this site and meet the current threat of decline due to environmental change and other factors. The project will deliver an enhanced visitor experience, world-class research and community-led design and participation. We hope to be able to announce substantial funding support from pledges which were made at the launch soon. A new feature was also unveiled at the event, being a replica causeway section to help understand what it would look like when in the Bronze Age. So please make the time to visit when you can. Over the winter, Aragon...
Is there much more?
Just another paragraph or two. Over the winter, Aragon have supplied 450 heavy standard trees across the city, over 3,400 other trees, including 3 mini forests. We ensure this has been positively looked at by our neighbourhoods. I will end there. Thank you.
Good, because Councillor Day's only now got a minute, because you stole a minute of hers. I'm only joking.
No.
Councillor Day,
Thank you.
Your 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. The Green Group would also like to thank the Independent Improvement Panel for their guidance on what has been and remains to be a difficult period for us as a council. We are also pleased to hear that the full business case for the station quarter has now been submitted. We hope this will offer an inviting entrance to the city with open green space and biodiversity as a theme in the plans. The Green Group also welcomes the Household Support Fund grant of £3.2 million, a much-needed lifeline for many who continue to struggle with the cost of living crisis. Congratulations to the Highways team and Adult Social Care on their nominations for awards. This demonstrates the excellence of officers working here at Peterborough City Council. I also want to recognise the excellence of officers on our Climate and Environment team, one of whom has a PhD in their field. This may explain why we have secured grant funding for projects and posts and are leading the way in the region. This work includes groundbreaking work developing an investment partnership model with the potential to bring green skills, jobs, technologies and projects into our city with very little pressure on council budgets. Our environment ambitions run through our emerging local plan and our corporate strategy. We have a strong voice on the Combined Authority Environment and Sustainable Communities Committee and have bidded into the Climate Opportunity Fund and are developing further pipeline funding bids. We also want to thank Labour locally for their support and the National Government for giving this far better attention than the previous one. Laurie Laybourne, Director of the Strategic Climate Risks Initiative, said, "It's only really now the penny is dropping that we didn't prevent a global-scale climate crisis. We are now in a global-scale climate crisis." After being elected in 2019, I took a photo of me in front of one of our Environment Capital City signs. You see them all around the roads. And declared that helping to bring that about is what I would absolutely do. I think it is clear to see that the Greens have absolutely been and will continue to work towards these ambitions. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Ooh, bang on time. You see, that's how it's done. That's how it's done. Rehearse next time. Make sure he rehearses the rest of the team in the Liberal Democrats. Right, okay, folks, thank you all very much for your contributions there. Agenda item number 6, which is questions with notice by members of the public. This one I'm very interested in. Question 1 is from Mr. Terry Young.
Thank you. Good evening. On January the 22nd this year, Council adopted a roadmap to net zero. In doing this, Council did not consider whether the Climate Emergency Declaration of 2019 is still fit for purpose. But there are at least 3 reasons why it should be reviewed. First, the claim that the roadmap to net zero has no cost to the Council is demonstrably incorrect. The Council pays a climate change manager with a management trainee in support. Executives and councillors spend time implementing policies, consulting, monitoring and reporting on progress. So it probably already costs in excess of £150,000 per year, and according to the table on pages 13 and 14, the total cost of reaching the target is over £10 million. Secondly, achieving net zero on the roadmap's timetable is not feasible. A, it banks heavily on decarbonisation of the national grid. The National Energy System Operator has made it clear this will not happen by 2030 and will require government subsidies of billions of pounds, and these will inevitably be recovered through higher taxation and higher electricity prices. B, to achieve net zero, the roadmap depends on ignoring carbon emissions from coal-fired power stations in China, where the solar panels and wind turbines are produced. As such, the roadmap is not honest with Peterborough residents and businesses. Thirdly, net zero is not net zero cost. Far from saving households £300 a year, as the government claimed, having shut down domestic coal, gas and oil, the UK now has the highest electricity prices in Europe. As for increased energy security, we are more at risk of power blackouts. Solar and wind power are intermittent, so that we will continue to rely on imports of gas and electricity, putting us more at the mercy of international trading prices. At January Council, Councillor Wiggin repeated Mark Linus' 2021 bogus claim about scientific consensus on human-caused climate change, and I wrote to all councillors with proof that Linus' own data did not support his headline. It is clear, however, that our Council's Climate Emergency Declaration risks increased costs, power shortages and harm to the residents, businesses and organisations in Peterborough. Half of the present Council were not councillors in 2019, and that unanimous vote in favour could well be different today, with different councillors and knowing how disastrously the net zero policy has unfolded in the 5 years since. At your January meeting, one councillor commented that alternative opinions on net zero appear not to be given a fair voice. And my question to Councillor Ellis is, when will you arrange a forum for councillors to hear an alternative perspective on net zero, followed by a review of the declaration? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Councillor Angus Ellis, would you respond?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Young, for your question. My short answer is no, but I will now explain why. In January of this year, Council decided to reaffirm its declaration of a climate emergency and welcome the work done so far to help support Peterborough to become a net zero carbon city in a motion that it passed. The National Committee on Climate Change published its latest carbon budget report in February. The committee is an independent statutory body established under the Climate Change Act 2008, tasked with advising government on climate change. They advocate for local authorities having a role in influencing emissions from buildings, transport and waste, which account for around half of the emissions needed to meet the carbon budget, as well as supporting communities to understand impactful changes. I'd like to read out the opening statement from its executive summary. The climate is changing. Greenhouse gas levels in the atmosphere are outside the range that our species has ever previously experienced. Heat waves and floods have become regular fixtures instead of once-in-a-lifetime events for many around the world, including the UK. Global warming has unequivocally been caused by greenhouse gas emissions, with 100% of the observed long-term temperature change attributed to human causes. Whilst I believe this is enough of a reason for the Council to fully commit to decarbonising both its own emissions and supporting a city to decarbonise, I would like to take the time to dispel some of the myths you've shared in your question and indeed the letter that you've sent around. On the suggestion that the National Energy System Operator has said that decarbonisation is not possible by 2030, in November they published a report in which they first highlighted a key message is that clean power is achievable for Great Britain by 2030. On the Council's response to climate change, the adoption of the roadmap to net zero was at no cost to the Council. It outlines a proposed method to reach net zero rather than prescribe that the Council must undertake all actions included in it. We have always said that we will be guided by available funding opportunities, as well as seeking projects which provide a financial saving to the Council. Seeking to decarbonise gives us opportunities to decrease our costs through generating electricity as well as reducing our energy use. But it also allows us to make our city much better in many other ways, by improving health, helping our residents live in warmer and damp-free homes, encouraging active travel and improving air quality and improving biodiversity and access to green spaces.
Councillor Ellis, have you nearly done?
Nearly.
Please be quick.
You also mentioned a letter from Mike Linus from 2011. In the letter mentioned, the researchers have looked at the number of papers which agree that climate change is caused by humans, and compared to this to the number of papers that do not believe that climate change, excuse me for a second.
You must wrap up though, Councillor Ellis.
That do not believe that climate change is caused by humans because of the overwhelming scientific consensus that climate change is due to human activity. They have presumed that any paper that doesn't deny this is in support. Similarly, if a scientist wrote a paper on evolution, they wouldn't feel the need to confirm they believe in it because the assumption is that they do.
That's it, Councillor Ellis. You've had well over a minute. Well over a minute. That's it.
Finally, wrapping up. My answer is I do not think that there should be there should be a review of our declaration on net zero.
I overindulged you there, so I was being firm with you. So, Councillor Day, I don't expect those remarks when people have to stick to timing. Mr. Young, sorry about that. Do you have a supplementary question, sir?
Yeah,
just what he knows.
It's interesting. There are several things that have just been...
I must remind you, actually, put a question, not comment. If you have a question, put the question. If you need a little run-up to it, that's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. My supplementary question is that I asked when you would allow the councillors to hear the alternative, and you have said you will not. Do I understand that you will not allow councillors to hear the alternative view of net zero, where they could examine the claims in the Linus paper that you discussed, the fact that the 7th report from the Climate Change Committee similarly ignores emissions in China from manufacture of solar panels and wind turbines and things like that? Do I understand then that you are not allowing this to take place?
We're watching the time. It's still on orange. So let the members of the staff run the timing, not the members of the council. Okay. Councillor Ellis, do you want to respond?
Thank you. Yes, I would. We did agree in the January meeting to reaffirm our support for the declaration from 2019, and the things I've outlined and the two different views which have been outlined tonight and the things which I've outlined, which are the council view, I think gives you the answer that we're not going to be reviewing our policy.
Right. Oh, thank you very much. Just for the benefit of Mr. Young, I'm sure he watched it. What Councillor Ellis said is correct, but that was not unanimous. Just for the benefit of people watching. So I wouldn't like to think that the council unanimously decided that. And you could see who did and who didn't by watching the meeting back. Okay, right. That's public questions over. So we'll move to agenda item 7A, which is petitions from members of the public. Members, sorry. No, it isn't public. Sorry, I am right. And there are none, which is what I was going to say. And petitions from members, I also believe there are none, unless you're all going to surprise me and pull one out of a briefcase. No. Okay. So we now move into a new part of the agenda on the council meeting, which is called the Angus Ellis half hour. Otherwise known as agenda item number 8, A to C, questions on notice. And there have been 9 questions submitted by members this evening to Cabinet members. Cabinet member. In fact, I'm sure you can delegate the rest of them to him and we can all sit back. All questions will have been published on the Council's website and will be taken as read. But, Councillor Ellis, now you've had a practice time, I'm sure you'll be able to stick within the time for your answers. And the first one is from Councillor Nicola Day. Now, so, Councillor Ellis, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Day in relation to the progress on PANS and PIRI projects? You have 3 minutes. Suggest you put your watch on.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, I would like to thank you, Councillor Day, for your question. The Peterborough Accelerated Net Zero Project, PANS, is just one of 7 national projects funded by Innovate UK as part of their Net Zero Living Demonstrator programme. The Council secured £3.2 million to deliver this project via a highly competitive process. The aim of the project is to identify viable net zero projects and support our own and other local authorities to create plans and seek finance to deliver them. The team are engaging with our communities to make sure projects can be tailored to the communities in which they would be delivered in. I'm delighted to confirm that this project is going exceptionally well, with a recent report commending the significant effort and dedication put into the project, recognising the complexity and innovation involved. I look forward to supporting the team to deliver the emerging projects that will make a significant difference to Peterborough's emissions. PIRI, Peterborough Integrated Renewable Infrastructure, seeks to develop a joint district heat and power network, reducing emissions from connected public sector and commercial buildings. The PIRI project launched the procurement phase, seeking a delivery partner in February. The launch was successful and bids from credible organisations have been received. These bids are currently being evaluated and the top 3 bids will be taken through a competitive dialogue process in the following months. We expect to bring a report to Cabinet at the end of this year, recommending a preferred partner to deliver the project. Finally, we are also working to publish a climate risk assessment and adaptation plan, action plan to ensure that the city is well prepared for future extreme weather events that are expected due to climate change. This will consider people's vulnerability to climate events and be able to provide insights on how to best protect some of our most vulnerable residents. We will share the adaptation work when complete, and we will be able to run workshops to share the findings.
Ah, right. Councillor Day.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Could you explain to me when will PIRI be delivered and what benefits will residents get from PIRI in the city? Thank you.
A report will be submitted to Cabinet recommending the preferred partner for PIRI in December 2025. The partner will have a period of up to 18 months to develop the project, obtain planning approvals, and contact the commercial customers. This typically takes 12 to 18 months. As the end of this period, construction will be able to start in 2027-28. Residents will benefit from these projects. The first phase of the Piri project will extend through the Fengate area and into the city centre, connecting buildings owned by the council, other public sector bodies and commercial customers in the area. As Piri will provide fuel security for the commercial customers, it will help to provide a degree of job security for the workforce of those employers. Part of the procurement for the Piri partner, the council, will be marking a question on social value, which will evaluate their commitment to local skills, local jobs, local supply chains, as well as the provision of apprenticeships, trainees, scholarships and work placements, and a commitment to the care leavers covenant. As Piri develops and expands in the future, residential developments will be connected to the network.
Thank you, Councillor Ayres.
Okay, we roll on. Question 2 from Councillor Anne Shahid. Councillor Ellis, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Anne Shahid in relation to Cuckoo's Hollow? 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Shahid, for your question. It is pleasing to see that the work involving the bridges at... Sorry, that's your question. Hold on. But it is pleasing, so I'm just reiterating what you said, really, aren't I? We have now carried out the work to design the third bridge, and this puts us in an advanced position to actively apply for funding when potential pots become available. In the interim period, we are reviewing other potential options for the area, such as additional views and resting areas. If ward councillors have ideas they'd like to share, I'd be delighted to hear from them.
And Shahid, Councillor Shahid, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Ellis, for that answer. It's reassuring to know that the idea of the third bridge is still being treated seriously. I just wondered whether any potential pots have been identified for the third bridge, and also regarding their options for the site. I'm pleased that you're open to suggestions from councillors, and I'm sure ward councillors would be interested in getting together with a meeting with you. I wondered whether you'd also considered consulting with residents about this too.
Thank you, Councillor Shahid. On your final point, we can certainly look into that, and I'd be happy to take on any ideas they have for that area. On the funding of the third bridge, I had a meeting with my service heads today, in fact, and it was one of those things we discussed about, so we are really on it, and as soon as we can find the funding, we will proceed.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis.
Fine. Just there's a total of 30 minutes for this, and there are 9 questions, so answer as brief as possible in order to get all the questions in, because it must come to an end at 7 minutes past 8. Because Dennis is keeping time now, just to let him know. We will now go on to the question 3. Again, Councillor Ellis, would you like to respond to question 3 from Councillor Heather Skipstead, which basically in relation to fly tipping?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Skipstead. We are fully committed to tackling littering and fly tipping, which we know is an issue affecting residents, as well as costing the council a significant amount of money to clear. The figures released by DEFRA cover a period of time prior to the current Labour administration of the council. However, we do recognise that the problem is still huge, and we are looking at things to sort it out. Whilst our fly tipping figures are high in comparison to other councils, though, this is not a like-for-like comparison. Peterborough's council area includes urban and rural areas which historically have suffered from fly tipping. Extra measures have been put in place in the last 10 months. I instigated a cross-party task and finish group linked to the scrutiny committee to specifically investigate fly tipping, and that's been set up. The group will review and make recommendations to improve service delivery to tackle fly tipping. The first meeting took place last night. Additional mobile cameras, education and enforcement work has also been brought in, but I don't agree that the household recycling centre charge changes are a cause of any increase in fly tipping. So, in terms of prosecuting offenders, our officers will always open an investigation if evidence is located, captured on cameras, or if a witness makes contact. I understand residents can be reluctant to make a statement. However, we can all do our bit by providing reassurance and encourage residents to provide statements to allow enforcement action to be taken against these crimes.
Councillor Skipster, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I do have a supplementary. I understand all that, and I know that there's been a group set up specifically to deal with this, but it seems I have huge problems in my ward, and it seems that it's going to cost money, basically, and I'm wondering whether, if there's budget put aside, because whatever you come up with from the fly tipping group, it will cost money. So I'm just wondering, is it budgeted that we need, for example, I was told I couldn't have signs and cameras. So is there a budget to tackle this once you have some suggestions from the group? Thank you.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Councillor Skipsgate. The group has only just been set up and met for the first time last night. So once they bring things to the council, once they bring their findings, then we'll have to look into if there's possible funding for things. I can't give a commitment, even before we come up with any ideas. On the question about, we have done, as I said, extra. We've now got, as well as having 9 cameras in the beginning, we've got an extra 11 cameras, which was from the June 2024 grant funding we received. And they are mobile cameras which can be moved around the city. So we have got more cameras than we used to. But I would say, please contact your group rep on that group ongoing. We do need to find other ways, see what other councils are doing, because there will be best practices from elsewhere that we can learn from.
Thank you. Question for Councillor Steve Allen. Would you like to respond, Councillor Ellis, again to Councillor Allen's question in relation to fly tipping? Hopefully there's something new.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Allen. I would like to provide reassurance that reducing fly tipping across the city is a key priority for the council, with enforcement being one of the measures used to address this crime. Over the past year, 56 cases have been prepared for prosecution. To date, 32 of these have been presented in court, several of which included evidence collated from enforcement cameras. Perpetrators that have attended court received a fine, costs and a victim surcharge. However, in most cases, individuals fail to attend and a warrant is issued for their arrest. Recently, the level of fines handed down from magistrates has been disappointing, with some less than the initial fixed penalty notice. However, work is ongoing with partners to make the courts aware of the full impact this crime has on the communities. And as I've already said, please feed in any ideas to the cross-party working group. Task and finish group even.
Councillor Allen, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, indeed. Why not? I think we all accept that the council and our arm's length contractor do run an acceptable collection and removal operation. We can't knock that. But the fact is, it still goes on. It's still rinse, repeat, and all that sort of stuff. So can we have a root and branch review on how we deal with the criminality involved? Because this is not just ad hoc dumping. These are criminals who are doing this, and we need to view it with that in mind. I'm on that task and finish group that you have referred to. We've come up with some great ideas. We've got a good cross-party group of people, and we're all keen to make a difference. So let's hope that we've got some good suggestions. What I would say is that the rural areas are condemned to having dumping not only on public land, but on private land, an ever-increasing burden to the farming community in the main, and of course rural landowners. Could we look at perhaps using our arm's length contractor, soon to be back in-house, to do some of this collection of rubbish on private land and charge a competitive rate so that we as a council can generate revenue from it and help the landowners and farmers in some way? Thank you.
A tad over, Councillor Allen, but not as much. Thank you. So, Councillor Ellis, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Allen. There's some good ideas you have there, which those questions, especially as you're on the group, I would suggest you do, submit to the task and finish group so they can look at them in detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Swiftly Moving through these questions, we go to question 5 and a respite from Councillor Ellis. We'll move to Councillor Jamil, who will answer a question from John Howard. Councillor Howard, in relation to Pleasure Fair Meadows. Councillor Jamil.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and Angus, have your cup of tea, water, whatever. You'll be back soon. I think, just to set a bit of context to this, I think I need to inform Council that Council doesn't actually own Pleasure Fair Meadow Car Park. This was sold to the Peterborough Investment Partnership, otherwise known as the PIP, many years ago, and subsequently in 2022, Meadsham Homes purchased the site. Cross Keys Homes, as people are aware, have made an offer to purchase our share of Meadsham Homes, which includes all the assets. This offer is for all the assets included within the joint venture, which includes the car park. Like you, we see this as a key generation site for the city, but what I can assure you is, as part of the terms of this transaction, we are taking steps to ensure that we will play a key role in the master planning for this site, which will include influencing the housing, car parking, and helping support the grant applications that Cross Keys make.
Councillor Howard, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you. Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, I'm glad we're both giving Councillor Ellis some time off with this question. So just to thank you for offering some insight, and I'm glad you agree that it's a key regeneration site for the city. And I'll just ask you as Cabinet Member to keep close to this deal and ensure we get a say in the future of the Pleasure Fair site. Thank you, Councillor Jamil.
Great. We'll move on to Councillor Sandra Bond has a question for Alison Jones. Councillor Jones, in relation to grant funding to support Ukrainians. That's question 6. So, Councillor Jones, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Bond. The Government provided £10,500 per arrival up to the 31st of December 2022 and £5,900 per arrival from the 1st of January 2023 per Ukrainian settled under the scheme. Funding is provided upon arrival and in full, with the expectation that support is provided over a 3-year period. The support provided in this fund includes facilitating secure and safe accommodation, liaison between sponsors and guests to ensure hosting arrangements are effective, providing alternative accommodation and preventing homelessness where appropriate, providing casework and integration support, including facilitating access to welfare benefits, employment, education, health services and adult education, providing additional ESOL and employment support via visa extension applications. The total amount received and spent to date is, in 2022-23, we received just under £2 million and spent £437,000. In 23-24, we received £749,000 and spent £528,000. Then in 2024-25, we received £171,000 and spent £478,000. Monies are paid from the government up front for us to use over the forthcoming 3 years based on the number of refugees that are going to locate to Peterborough. You can see from the figures it looks like there are under and overspends. Be assured that all monies are ring-fenced for this spend, as it is likely unused for the 3-year period. We use the charity help to support us in this, and we make quarterly payments as appropriate. So you could ask, why would we see an underspend? Basically, the money is covering the period from May to March each financial year, but in reality, we see people arriving throughout the year, which means we would not always need to spend all the monies in the first month. There's also been the successful Sponsoring House project, which the government launched for people to take refugees into their own homes for support and etc. This has meant we don't used to use the money for them while they're being sponsored. It has still been a very positive experience, though, for the refugees of Peterborough. However, should circumstances change, then this fund can support alternative accommodation. The Local Authority Housing Fund has also enabled us to purchase some houses for refugees whilst giving them the additional support that we mentioned earlier. In these initiatives, it's enabled us to manage costs whilst providing the most appropriate housing for them. The more we can avoid B&Bs and temporary accommodation can only be a positive and beneficial for them. Currently, the government gives a 3-year visa for refugees from Ukraine. However, this has just been extended by a further 18 months. We will not receive any further money for this extension, but will still need to support them from the money which has now been ring-fenced.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you.
You done?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Bond, Sandra Bond, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not really a question, but firstly, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the people of Peterborough for their outstanding generosity in supporting the people of Ukraine. I observed this generosity firsthand when visiting the Church of St Olga, then again at the showground while packing boxes with donated items alongside Councillors Judy and John Fox, and when my home became a drop-off point for donated items. I thank the Cabinet member for the answer she's given me. It's quite clear. You have answered most of the questions I was going to ask in my supplementary question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bond.
Sorry. It's okay. Not sure. I think we could have turned it into a question. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Was it a good idea? Oh, yes, presumably, Alison, yes. There we go. If you're happy with that. Okay, we'll move on to question 7 then, from Councillor John Howard to Jamil. Councillor Jamil, would you like to respond to this question in relation to the library estate?
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Mayor, and certainly would. Thank you for your question, Councillor Howard. The short answer is to your question is carry out an effective review of our libraries. The answer is yes. As you know, Peterborough's libraries and archive service is both valued and important, and the review of the service will be carried out against that backdrop. Officers will be presenting a recommended approach to members of the FSWG at their next meeting. This approach will set out the requirements to develop a comprehensive needs assessment prior to any review commencing and suggested approach to building a full picture of library services across the city. It will also recommend the creation of a cross-party working group to oversee the review and to report regularly back to FSWG. The review in itself will build on the previous work done by yourself and Councillor Allen, and will be informed by advice and guidance provided by the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, as well as the statutory obligations this council has to provide libraries in the city.
Councillor Howard.
Thank you. For you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillor Jamil, thanks for the answer. I think one of the reasons I supported the budget was in the confidence that we'd do a full review and get the best out of the library estate. And I'm glad to see the approach you're taking, so thank you for that. Myself and Councillor Allen share your passion in securing the best future for the library, so please be assured of our support in the review, as I hope we can both give our insight into our time where we had our tour of the libraries ourselves. This is beyond politics, and we all want to see a library service fit for 2025 and beyond. So thanks for the work you're doing, and thanks for the answer.
Anything to add? No.
Thank you, and look forward to working with you and get the results back at FSWG and how we can move forward with this.
Thank you. Now the moment we've all been waiting for, as we get back to Councillor Ellis with question 8 from Councillor Nicola Day in relation to commercial partnerships to net zero. Councillor Ellis, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I'll just go straight to the answer because of time. The Council is exploring whether securing a commercial partner to deliver net zero projects at pace and scale would be a viable option in Peterborough. This project, called LEAP Phase 2, seeks to explore novel models to accelerate the delivery of net zero projects, building on the experience of other authorities such as Bristol City Council, as well as other innovative combined authorities. To quickly explain a bit of the work, the Bristol project have secured a 20-year partnership with a commercial partner, which will see an investment of over £1 billion into Bristol. It will deliver a variety of net zero projects and also create a minimum of £61.5 million of social value over the first 5 years from job creation, apprenticeships and work placements, as well as a new community energy fund, which has now been launched. During the next 9 months, Peterborough City Council will complete a feasibility assessment and develop an outline business case for Cabinet to consider and make a decision upon how we proceed.
Would you like to respond again, Councillor Day?
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Could I just ask, what has the Bristol Local Area Energy Plan already delivered for the people of Bristol?
Okay, social value with a launch of a 1.5 million Bristol City Leap Community Energy Fund, contributed 350 volunteer hours, 102 new jobs in Bristol postcodes and 50 weeks of work placements. Investment, £16 million of investment in decarbonisation projects and spent nearly £3 million with local suppliers. The heat network has delivered 22 gigawatts of heat, signed 7 new connection agreements and connected 2 new buildings to the network. The Bristol Leap has continued to deliver bright green homes energy efficiency upgrades of £4 million of energy efficiency measures and staffing. Since the initial 27 people transferred from Bristol Council's energy service to the Bristol City Leap, it has grown to a team of over 70.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. We're astonished and astounded that you just happen to have that information to hand. I found that remarkable. Got to have a bit of joviality, haven't we? Otherwise, people would think we're all too serious. Councillor Anne Shahid has a question. It's number 9 to Councillor Cole in relation to free school meals. Councillor Cole, would you like to respond?
Thank you, through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Shahid, for your question. In April 2024, the think tank Policy and Practice reported that approximately 471,000 children and young people were needlessly missing out on free school meals. Whilst officers are confident that the majority of those eligible for free school meals in Peterborough are accessing them, officers also know that due to a number of reasons, including changing circumstances, lack of understanding, as well as stigma, this could also be preventing all those families who are eligible from accessing this support. This administration is committed to removing unnecessary barriers preventing local families from accessing this financial support if eligible. And because of this, I've already asked officers to contact local authorities involved in similar pilot projects to better understand the process. I have been in conversation with Councillor Jane Walker from Bedford Council regarding free school meals auto-enrolment, and have also been in discussions with the LGA. And I look forward to sharing a proposal with Cabinet and subsequently Council in due course.
Councillor Shahid, do you have a supplementary, or would you just like to give the answer now? Just checking.
Thank you, Councillor Cole, for that answer. Can I just check, you said that officers are confident that most people are taking up the offer of free school meals. On what evidence they are basing that? And also just to note that it's reassuring to know that you have been in contact with other authorities about the auto-enrolment, as I know that this is something that the Education Committee has recommended to government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and through you. So in terms of officers and knowing the uptake of free school dinners, the Director for Education and team, and I also know from a personal experience that schools are always trying to promote take up of free school meals. Within most school buildings there will be teachers or office staff that can help members of the public sign up for, or not members of the public but families sign up for free school dinners. As ward councillors and with schools in wards, I ask you to promote on your social platforms if you have them, take up this offer of free school dinners, but auto-enrolment would certainly be a game changer in terms of families accessing financial support. And not only that, it will support schools financially supporting most vulnerable children in our city.
Thank you, Councillor Cole.
And thank you all for questions. That brings us, we managed to get through them all, remarkably, with time to spare, probably 2 minutes. Those that are keeping an eye on the time, by the way. So, agenda item 8D is questions on notice to members, to the combined authority representatives, and there were no questions submitted. 9A, the executive and committee recommendations to council. Constitution and Ethics Committee Local Government Association Peer Challenge recommendations. And as the chair of Constitution and Ethics Committee, Councillor Hemraj, would you like to move the recommendations?
I would, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm delighted to present the findings and recommendations from the Local Government Association Peer Challenge of Corporate Parenting, which took place on the 17th and 18th of July 2024. This comprehensive review has provided invaluable insights into the effectiveness of our corporate parenting practices and identified key areas for improvement. The Peer Challenge team, comprising experienced professionals from various local governments, conducted an in-depth evaluation through interviews, observations and a diagnostic review. Their work highlighted the commitment and energy of our members and officers towards improving their lives of children in Peterborough. Significant investments have been made, yet there is an acknowledgement that further efforts are needed to strengthen corporate parenting across the council. One of the most critical recommendations from this review is to transition corporate parenting governance from a committee to a board. This change is aimed at enhancing stakeholder engagement, including cross-party members, officers, partners, education colleagues and foster carers. We believe this transition will facilitate more robust discussions and the active involvement of young people, thereby fostering a more effective corporate parenting framework. I urge Council members to approve Recommendation 12, transitioning corporate parenting committee meetings to a non-public setting, thus allowing detailed discussions and young people engagement, and agree the new draft of reference. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to your support in making these essential changes for the betterment of corporate parenting in Peterborough City Council. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hemorrhage. I understand that Councillor Howard is seconding this item. Are you happy to second it, and do you wish to reserve your right to speak or speak now?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Happy to second, and I'll speak now if that's okay.
That's fine.
Just to say, I've been on the Corporate Parenting Board for a few years now, and I think the work it's done has been vital, and it's thanks to all the contribution from members. But I'd really like to thank the officers and the support of the LGA for helping us navigate through the changes to a board. And ultimately, the change to a board will just help us provide better provision for corporate parenting. The absolute key will be ensuring young people are involved, as the work done by the Children in Care Council has been incredible for anyone who's sat on that committee the last few years will agree, I'm sure. These young people are the absolute key of the work we do, and I'm very glad of the assurance that they will have an important part to play in the new board. I'd ask for everyone's support tonight to help us make the next step in our improvement journey, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. Now, members, is there any debate or questions, or are we happy to agree? Just indicate. I'm getting an agreement from everywhere, no dissension. So I think that's agreed then, team. So Rachel, it's not over to you to manage the vote. Just pointing it out, we've done. We shall move to agenda item 9B then, executive and committee recommendations to council. And firstly, Cabinet Warrington Neighbourhood Development Plan. Councillor Thornborne, as Cabinet Member for Growth and Regeneration, would you like to move the recommendations?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation. The Warrington Neighbourhood Plan has been prepared by Warrington Neighbourhood Area Forum with support from the local community, who have been working tirelessly on this since 2017. In February, local people were invited to vote at a referendum on whether the Warrington Neighbourhood Plan should be used by Peterborough City Council when determining planning applications, in which almost 93% of voters voted in favour. As the Neighbourhood Plan meets the legal tests and was supported by the majority of those who voted in the referendum, it must be now formally made by the Council. The Council must uphold the referendum result. There is no known legal basis to reject the plan. On behalf of Peterborough City Council, I'd like to congratulate Warrington Area Forum on this important achievement and thank them for all their hard work in preparing it. I'd like everyone's support in approving the making of this neighbourhood plan.
Thank you, Councillor Thornborne. John Fox, Councillor John Fox, I understand that you're seconding. Do you wish to speak now or reserve your right to speak?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would second this and reserve my right to speak.
I think I might be coming back to you fairly quickly, though. Members, debate, questions on this? Well, I don't know whether Councillor Fox wants to... I was trying to be as obvious as I could. Would you like to say anything, Councillor Fox, before we...
Yes, certainly, Mayor. I would like to congratulate Warrington on this. If you look at the turnout, it might sound a small turnout, 21.2%. But we all know here that's a really good turnout for any community. And they've done an absolute tremendous job. Worked the socks off for nearly 7 years, I think it took them. And I have to say that I'll take my hat off to Sally Weald, who's leader of this, along with the Warrington Neighbourhood Council, helped and the forum. And she's done a tremendous, hard-working job to get this through. And I really, really commend her. And it's a great thing to have, because it's what the people of Warrington chose. And they're protecting their green space. They're very, very passionate about their green space. Thank you very much indeed.
Ooh. So, as we were then, no more debate, no more questions. Is it agreed, members? Thank you very much. So we'll swiftly move on to agenda item number 10, is in relation to the record of executive decisions detailed on pages 105 to 107 of your agenda pack tonight. The leader will introduce this item, and any questions will be answered by the leader unless he refers them to another member. I would remind councillors that they should ask questions on the decisions in the reports. All questions should be relevant to the decision itself. Should I feel that any preamble is unreasonably long, I will instruct councillors to ask the question immediately. Can members please note that once I've moved on, questions will not be accepted from previous pages. Councillor Dennis Jones, would you please introduce the item?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I was going to answer all the questions, but I'm in fact handing them over to Councillor Angus Ellis.
Well, he's only just warmed up. Okay, I will take... Well, I was going to say, yeah, maybe we know the answers. But anyway, I'll take each page in turn. So could members please refer to the title or reference number of the decision when asking a question. So we'll start off with page 105. See no hands shooting up. 106. And finally 107. Blimey. Well, I was going to say there's not a lot of... Try harder, Dennis.
Ask Angus.
There's not much... It's a bit thin on the ground anyway, but there we go. Okay, folks, that seems to have got that item over swiftly. So, we'll move to agenda item 11 then, in relation to the record of combined authority decisions made since the last meeting. I will refer any questions to the relevant combined authority representative, otherwise the same rules will apply as previous items. Members, these decisions can be found on page 109 to 122. I will take each meeting in turn, and members please refer to the title of the decision when asking a question. So I tried to get them over quickly but got told off. So I shall say the Combined Authority Board of the 6th of February 2025, and Dennis Jones sits on that. No questions. Okay. The Audit and Governance Committee, 21st of February 2025, Councillor Chris Wiggin sits on that. The next one is the Skills and Employment Committee of the 24th of February. Councillor Samantha Hemraj sits on that. And finally, the Environment and Sustainable Communities Committee, which was on the 26th of February, and Councillor Nicola Day sits on that. All happy? No questions. Right. Okay, so we'll move on quickly to agenda item 12, which is motions on notice, and we've received two this evening, and the first is from Councillor Wiggin. Would you like to move your motion as set out in the agenda?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. It was good to see you last night at the Mayor's charity event. I hope you bought a lottery ticket tonight, because you seem to win everything on the tombola, on the raffle. So
I shared, though.
You did share. You were very generous, Mr Deputy Mayor. So My motion is in relation to the effect of the national insurance increase on parish councils. Members will be aware, as we went through the budget discussion, that the government provided funding for principal councils to compensate them for the effect of the increase of employer national insurance contributions on their staff members, and we welcome that at city council level. However, for parish councils, this funding has not been replicated. So parish councils where we have them provide vital local services. My parish council in Hampton, for instance, funds many services, including additional lengthsmen to help with the litter issues in the area. We employ one member of staff, and I know many other parish councils in the area also employ staff and will be hit by this national insurance rise. So all this motion is asking to do is for us to write to the government to ask if the funding formula that's been presented for principal authorities can be replicated for parish councils as well. So I hope members will be able to support this, and thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that motion? I believe it's Councillor Ormston.
Yeah, happy to second. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
You want to speak now or reserve your right to speak?
I won't be speaking on the item to save time.
Ah, right. Okay, that's easy then. Any debate or questions on this motion, or should we move to the vote, or is it agreed or not agreed? No dissent? Right, okay, it's agreed then. Marvellous. There we go. Moving on to the... Eleanor's in the corner, smiling away, by the way, because she's thinking we're getting nearer. We're getting nearer. She's got a long way to go. Okay, so the second motion, again from Councillor Ormston. Would you like to move your motion as set out in the agenda, Councillor Ormston?
Yes, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Hopefully everyone can see this rather majestic flag being modelled by the foxes and Sarah there. Look at that. It's not been planned, but beautifully done. And if you can't see it, then hopefully you've had the opportunity to look at the flag on the postcards I've placed all around us this evening. The flag has been inspired by the strong identity of the people of the Fens. The central symbol on the flag is the Fen tiger, a historic nickname for residents representing the fierce opposition to the drainage schemes back in the 17th century. The flag features yellow, symbolising the agricultural prosperity the area enjoys, with outer blue flanks representing the region's wonderful waterways. James Bowman, who designed this flag back in 2016 with the support of many others, have been campaigning and gathering support for the flag since 2018. The campaign has been a real grassroots effort, focusing on gaining support from businesses and key individuals, including elected representatives even, such as our current MP for Peterborough, before seeking official recognition from the Flag Institute. With this said, the flag has gained much recognition and coverage and support from numerous media outlets and feature pieces on websites like Flags of the World. The flag is sold in multiple manufacturers, with merchandise ranging from badges to clothing to household items, and yes, even the postcards surrounding us in the room today. The flag is flown in prominent locations and is often seen all around the Fens, our city and surrounding areas, potentially none more so than the great villages of Thorney and Newborough, the area I live in and am very proud to represent, along with Councillor Allen and Councillor Ray. The people of the Fens have a strong connection, passion and sense of belonging with their area. With this in mind, I hope everyone in this chamber will join me in congratulating Mr Bowman and on creating this flag, which captures the identity and history of the Fens so very well, and will support the motion in front of us today in order to help the flag on its journey to official recognition, the official recognition it deserves from the Flag Institute. Thank you.
It was a timely event to raise this motion tonight, I would have thought. Councillor McNally. Are you going to second it, I understand? Reserve your right to speak or speak?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. As a keen history buff, I'm more than happy to second this.
Ooh,
cracking flag.
They're growing. Okay, members, do we have any debate or questions, or are we happy to agree this? Agree. Oh, Hang on, wait a minute. Go on. You want to make a comment?
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I think this should go down on record as being probably one of the most adorable motions that we've ever had in Peterborough City Council. And, you know, just to see the passion that is emanating from Councillor Ormiston, he's sort of a truth, as Councillor Jamil would put it, fendless stallion. So I just want to ask, though, why does the tiger look so angry? That's the only thing. But yeah, definitely supporting. Thank you.
Okay. I've got, just so be clear, I've got Councillor Jones and Councillor Day, nobody else. Okay. All right. So then we'll move on again. Councillor Jones.
Actually, this reminds me of my old school badge. I think it's called the Lion Rampant, and mine was holding a rose because it was up in Manchester. Also, excuse me, I found out recently that the Fens begins at Cardyke. Anybody? So and the only thing is, I'm more than happy, but the last thing we want to do is invoke the 17th century spirit when we're going to build a reservoir in 2032. So don't fire him up for that. But yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Councillor Day.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Really quickly, I just want to ask Councillor Ormiston, was there ever an actual fen tiger?
No. I think it's a myth, yeah.
Okay. Just before we got to that was agreed, I heard. Is that agreed? That was all agreed? Fine. Thank you very much, folks. Nobody dissenting. Now then, agenda item 13, unlucky for some, which is 13A, the final report of the Peterborough City Council Independent Improvement and Assurance Panel. Members, I would now like to propose suspending Part 4, Section 1, bracket 1611, close bracket, of standing orders for items 3A to allow both the Chief Executive and Eleanor Kelly of the Improvement Panel to address full council, and item 13D to allow the Chief Executive to address full council on local government reorganisation. That's two items. So, Councillor Dennis Jones, I understand that you will second this proposal, and either speak now or reserve your right to speak later in the debate if we have one.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. More than happy to second and reserve.
If there are
my
no
right to
more
speak.
speakers or nobody indicating, can we agree that? Is that agreed? We're only agreeing to suspend standing orders, by the way. Right. We'll move on to move the recommendations for the final report of the panel. Councillor Dennis Jones, you can move the recommendations, and again we have now suspended those as just agreed. So we'll bring in the other speakers as we go. Councillor Jones.
I'm happy to move the recommendations and open it up to the floor, Mr Deputy
Councillor
Mayor.
Jamil, will you second that recommendation? And either speak now or reserve your right to speak later in the debate.
I certainly do, Mr Deputy Mayor, and I will reserve my right to speak at the end.
Okay. So, members, we are joined this evening by Eleanor Kelly, who's sat where all the sweets are, down that bottom end, from the Improvement Panel, who will be able to answer questions on this report. Now, we can have normal debate. Well, I'm happy. Eleanor, would you like to come up to the table so that you can you can see everybody and they can see you rather than being sat down the bottom down there? They asked, would you like to sit here? Would you like to sit here? Yeah. Well, it's great to welcome you here, as always. So, members, we can debate the matter with officers, the Chief Executive, and Eleanor, or also ask questions. How long have we got for this, by the way? Not too long, because she does have a long way to go to get back, and it can turn into a fairly long meeting, but we're still young in the evening at the moment. So, who'd like to kick off with debate or questions? Oh, Councillor Hogg. And please let us know if it's who it's for, so that you know who you're addressing. So, but through the chair. So, what would you like to do?
Well, I've got a question for Eleanor Kelly.
There we go.
From your report, you state that we would bring the Council's attention to the need to ensure the savings are speedily delivered in 25-26, and that there is no real capacity due to the diminished level of reserves to deal with any over-expenditure in any area of the Council. With that in mind, are you concerned with a number of proposed budget savings having full year impact and not reduced for in the first year to give time for implementation? Also, that the management structure review looking to save £2 million doesn't seem to include any redundancy costs. I've got another question. Would you like me to just stop there, or?
Eleanor, would you like to take them one at a time, or?
I think it's probably best to take them sort of like relatively individually, because they can get quite complicated otherwise. And
We'll deal with them one at a time then, members, okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
The full year impact of the savings are always taken into account across the savings necessary. So the challenge that we are putting to you is that you have a history of overspending. So you achieve savings, but you overspend in other areas. And that in that historic position is such that you can be successful in achieving savings in certain areas, but overspend in others. And so you've got to be watching for both. I know that the moratorium has been particularly helpful, and the moratorium and the other controls are going to continue, and it has been suggested that they might be strengthened. That's a conversation that the new Section 151 officer, I'm sure, will have with the Chief Executive and then subsequently the members moving forward. I think the scale of the challenge is large, but the scale of the challenge is recognised by officers and by members, and will be under constant scrutiny all the way through. As we've said in the report, the first 6 months, you'll know within the first 6 months whether or not you're going to stay out of trouble or whether you're going to land back in trouble again. But it is your biggest challenge in relation to trying to bring that 25-26 budget in on the nose, rather than overspending, whether that overspending is because you haven't achieved your savings or whether it's because you've overspent in other areas. But the challenge remains. In relation to the management savings, Matt might want to say something about that, but you do have a provision for redundancy costs, but Matt might want to comment on that.
Yeah, just on the savings point, first of all, we have robust plans in place. We've been tightening those up over the last few weeks. We, as you're well aware, FSWG gets full access to those papers. More than happy to give the oversight of those plans. We do red, amber, green, all the savings, and we've got a clear view. There's probably 5 or 6 areas which we're keeping a very close eye on in terms of deliverability. There is a good, strong track record, but I think it's been a pretty unprecedented year for lots of councils. 30 councils sought exceptional financial support. We were not one of them. We did give that proper consideration, but we didn't go there in the end. I am working with the new Section 151 to look at how we can boost our reserve levels, because I think that's the critical message in the report, to really upscale that financial resilience, and then that enable to then drive transformation. In terms of the management review, I was very clear. I brought the LGA in to give, if you like, an external review on the management layers and spans. Actually, we did that when I first arrived. We took out assistant director roles and took out a number of obviously layers, and we obviously decoupled from Cambridgeshire. 3 years in, I think it was time to do that again. We've identified probably upwards of towards £2.9 million now. We are not necessarily taking all those savings. We have set a reserve aside at the moment. I'm not expecting to use that in full, but we are making good strides now, and the consultation process has already started in terms of those management reviews, and that's owned by the executive directors, supported by HR.
Councillor Hogg, do you have another point?
I do. Finally, can the panel please give us its thoughts on the post-budget decision to cancel the Aragon contract and bring the employees into the council at the cost of around £3 million? I say around, as the report states, that there are a number of unknowns which could affect that figure. With the stated outcome to be achieved within the year, this means a substantial pressure on the budget.
We're not in a position to comment on that right at this sort of like point in time because there hasn't been a meeting of the panel since that decision was taken. So the final meeting of the panel is on April the 2nd, and we can certainly sort of like look at that decision and make any comment on that at that time.
Just what I would reflect though, when you go back to the original panel report and the DLUC report, it set out a number of arm's length companies and organisations. We've mentioned one tonight, which was Meacham. That's going to shareholder, I think, next week. Peterborough Limited, Aragon, was looked at several times through the shareholder committee, and I think the panel have been supportive of the direction of travel around actually closing down the likes of Serco, MPS and others. That actually, not that it was criticism at the time when they were set up, but they've run its course, and I think it was timely to look again at those strategic partnerships. And that's what we've done on Peterborough Limited, as supported by Cabinet, and obviously, hopefully, Meacham, there'll be a consideration subject to negotiations of a way forward on that one.
Okay, thank you. So just a reminder, members can only ask questions on stuff that's before us, not stuff that's happened since. I've got your Councillor Day, don't worry. Just so we're aware, because it's a moving feast, but the panel haven't met for a while. So I have Councillor Day, Councillor Ormiston, Councillor Farouk. One second. Councillor Day. Councillor Shahid. Yeah, hang on.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. On page 129 of the independent report, it says that in the event the savings are not delivered, it will be clear in the next 6 months, as you just mentioned, whether the council has no option other than to return to MHCLG for further support. I'm hoping the savings will be delivered. So how do we, on FSWG, make sure we're really robust, that we're getting the right reports so that we can see the progression of savings? We have the bar charts and things, but how do we really get a handle on that and ask the right questions? A second question is, if we do have to go back to MHCLG for further support, what will that look like in your experience? Thank you.
I think the experience of the officers working with FSWG over the course of the last 3 years has shown that all of the information that's available and has gone through with the officers is shared with FSWG. All of the information that came to the panel, for example, came to FSWG. So you're probably as robust as anybody, as any council, in relation to the approach that you take to knowing and understanding the council's financial position at any given point in time. And it will be clear in relation to where the red, amber, greens are on the savings, and where the spending, whether people are staying within their budgets on the revenue side, and whether they're meeting their expenditure targets on the capital side. With that information sort of like presented in the clear way that it is to FSWG, I think that it will be really apparent to you whether you're staying on track. In terms of going back to MHCLG, I think that the council would be seeking to avoid that if at all possible. And what you may well look at instead is what you've looked at over the course of the last sort of like 3 years is you've had mitigation where you've saved money on other things in order to be able to try to bring down the overspending or to meet savings that haven't been possible to achieve. The scope for mitigation is very, very much reduced in relation to the financial position that you presented to you now. So there might be some difficult decisions that need to be taken if it would appear that the council was either overspending or not achieving its savings. And those difficult decisions may actually be more palatable than going back to MHCLG to ask for additional financial support. But that's a decision that you would take in consultation with FSWG and then take that decision into Cabinet and then discuss it in Council. And that would lead me to undermine the message in the report that the work that you do collegiately and collectively in FSWG is both exemplary and extremely important, and that you can't let that collegiate work fall apart for political reasons once you come into the council chamber. It's much too important for the people of Peterborough City.
Thank you. Councillor Ormiston.
Thank you. If it was a little bit planned again, I was just going to make a comment on pages 132 and 133 and just say that there was robust scrutiny in the budget, and so there was comments and everything made, but I would just like to reconfirm that moving forwards, certainly everyone here in Peterborough First are committed to making sure that this budget is a success moving forward, and we're very much looking forward to FSWG and hopefully a new financial scrutiny committee as well, so working together to make sure that the budget that was voted through will be a success. And if I can, sorry, Mr Deputy Mayor, there's a quote of £3 million regarding the Peterborough limit, but I'm hearing different figures. Can we make sure we get an accurate figure to FSWG when we can, please?
Matt will answer that.
I'd just like to echo the commitment to FSWG. I think when we debated in the chamber around the importance of FSWG, all group leaders and groups talked positively around FSWG and that collaboration, that transmission of information around the budget, the challenges, the risks, etc. I think it's really important, and of course we will give a breakdown on Peterborough Limited as well. That's fine.
Anything, Eleanor?
If I could just go back to the Peterborough Limited point, we continued over the course of the 3 years of our work to pick up on governance points across all of the companies that the council sort of had set up over the years, and we continued to have concerns over the governance of Peterborough Limited. I would say that I was thrown a little bit by your use of the name Aragon, because that's not as I know it as Peterborough Limited. And as we've said in the report, we were actually supportive of the decision to bring it back in-house. That's because it's been shown by some of the other in-house returns that we've seen that there is significant benefits to be gained by bringing services back in-house. And we've actually sort of like seen with the work of the LGA and the delayering of the management showing that £2.9 million saving that could be sort of like potential, that it isn't just about delayering management and avoiding duplication that could actually be financially beneficial to the council, but it almost certainly would improve relations across certain services.
Thank you. Councillor Mohammed Farouk.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Eleanor, for taking trouble coming here, and all the hard work for the last 2 years. Much appreciated. What I find with this report particularly is that it's very encouraging for all the good work it's done, but equally it's a little bit damning as well at certain aspects, and I'm going to look at those points on page 131, where it says, at the heart of the panel's concern is the fact that Council has used £20 million of innovation reserve on a number of things, and talks about MASH safeguarding £2.5 million, which is absolutely right. You know, when statutory requirements are needed, you do end up spending money on that. But then it goes on to talk about has depleted reserves, cannot see where will the future funding will come from, and then risky savings, increased costs, and then it goes on another paragraph, hard to see meaningful programme can be delivered. So obviously you've seen our progress and how much of a work ethics. In simple question, what is the realistic way forward you see for our council to get to, or where it's going to achieve, how it's going to achieve that?
If I can just comment on the concern about the use of the innovation reserve. Part of our concern was that it was very difficult for it to be demonstrated what the return was on that investment. And part of that was because it was, to be honest, a necessary evil that some of that innovation fund was spent on things that were not truly transformationally innovative, but they were spent on things that are actually detailed in the report that were actually necessary. Now, we said in the report that the council is both better governed and better managed than it was 3 years ago when the panel first came, and that is absolutely the case. But the challenge remains. We've also sort of said in the report that there is no current appetite for the flexible use of capital receipts, but that continues to have to be looked at and observed in relation to whether or not, for the really sort of like genuinely innovative issues that come forward that would be able to demonstrate a really massive return on investment, then that decision or that view on the flexible use of capital receipts would actually be able to be revisited on a case-by-case basis. We've consistently said in the panel that FSWG should look at, in more detail, at transformation as much as it looks at finances and at the budget, because the transformation activity is at the heart of how you will then eventually get to long-term financial sustainability. So while you're concentrating on the budget, that's been absolutely what you needed to do, and you've done it very, very well. But you need to start looking in more detail at the transformation opportunities and what those transformations opportunities are, whether they're palatable to members, and whether you agree that it is actually worth finding the funding in order to do that investment, in order to future saving. And I'm sure that's a conversation you'll have with your new Section 151 officer. And as you're doing it very well on the asset sales side and bringing capital receipts in, then it is a position where you could actually consider whether one of those receipts, even just one of those receipts, could be ring-fenced for the purpose of transformation and innovation. But it would be much better to have the cross-group discussion in FSWG about that innovative use and that challenge. Because the challenge is, and as an ex-151 officer myself, I will tell you that we look at it in a linear way. I'm going to spend that pound, you're going to give me those £2. I'm going to save £2 on debt. That's what I'm going to spend that money on. The risk in relation to innovation, where you think this is what's going to happen and you hope that if you spend that pound, you'll get this £3 back, but there's a risk associated with it. Section 151 officers don't have much of an appetite for risk, but you're going to have to in relation to some of the innovation that you have, that you see, the one that's up for the award in relation to sort of like, hey Geraldine, the work's that's been done on AI. It's worth the investment, and it's worth taking a wider view as to whether or not the crippling debt that the council has is your one and only problem. It's not. The future becomes a problem if you can't actually do something more innovative about the use of the assets and the money that you have.
Just an observation, really, and using the children as an example, because we had our children's board today. We had to put in, short notice, £2.5 million into children's. Some of that was to do with the multi-agency safeguarding hub. Today, we've heard from DFE and others around the real commendable work going on around children's services. We had to do it at pace, create a brand new MASH. Police didn't want it, but we did it in this building. It's now working much better in a multi-agency manner. Reflecting back, yes, of course, I would love to see a very clear return on investment financially. But we're seeing that through the safeguarding practice and conditions happening and the referrals coming in. So I think FSWG, going back to Nicola Day's question, is around children's, adults, housing, the big areas where there is big spend and big pressures. And you'd have heard last week massive changes around the health landscape. That is going to impact on children's and adult social care potentially in a huge way over the next 2 or 3 years. And you've got devolution coming on down the track as well in 3 years. Focus on the big strategic issues. Get away from the mayor's car. Councillor Ellis's area, there's been a big fixation on. Get into some of the big prevention, digital transformation areas where the big spend pressures are.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Shahid.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. This is a question for the member of the panel. Something slightly different as regards the language of the report, or some of the language used in the report. Section 3.22, where the panel comments on the conduct of many of the members was poor and mentions recent member behaviour. I just wondered if the member of the panel could elaborate on that and clarify that, please.
In the view of the panel, having worked all year through FSWG across all groups and had their own suggestions and initiatives included in the budget, it was the panel's view that it was poor for the decisions on the budget to be for the vote on the budget to be as tight as it was. We thought that it was quite extraordinary to have as many apologies for absence in one of the key council meetings of the year. We thought that we noted that a number of things that were said in the council chamber were inaccurate, and whether they were deliberately inaccurate or whether they were just the person was just wrong, was just really sort of like not helpful. And a member of the panel who conducted the first review, the first corporate review that was done on commenting on members and behaviour in the council chamber back in 2021, had always, all the way through all of our stuff like 7 reports, have been commenting on how much better member behaviour was. And that's why the language is that it was disappointing. It was really disappointing to see that the behaviour had actually gone back into what appeared to be politically driven behaviour, rather than a reflection that all of the hard work that had gone in across all of the groups through FSWG on that budget then did not result in a clear and decisive decision by the council that this was the budget that was necessary to be accepted by the council, and for work to then sort of like proceed through the year in order to be able to deliver all of the good things that are in there. Everybody always focuses on the cuts and don't actually focus on the growth. You have to sort of like focus on all of the amazing things that are in that budget and all of the amazing things that the City Council has said that it's going to do over the course of the coming year and the coming sort of like decades for Peterborough. That's why we were disappointed, because we actually know that you are all so much better than that. And I think that, as I said earlier about the exemplary work within FSWG, I think there's an awful lot of councils across the country that could look at what Peterborough do in their FSWG and what the work that they do on the budget and the way that they work together in a council that's in no overall control, and be applauded for it. They wouldn't be applauded when they look at the result of the 21, 18, 11 and 9 absences on that one particular night. And I don't think that night is, I personally don't think that night is representative of you as a chamber, or any of your commitment to Peterborough and what it is that you're all trying to achieve.
Councillor John Howard.
Thank you. For you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and incredible timing really, Eleanor, because I think you've just hit on my real hot topic and favourite subject of the report. The budget vote, I feel like this report would have read very differently if not for that night, and it's a real shame that that's changed the tone of the report. And I feel that night as a council chamber, we went back politically about 4 or 5 years in one night, which is really sad to see. And I do wonder, we've had FSWG for a year, we've had budget briefings, we've had a full budget scrutiny, and we still haven't had members vote against, which they're perfectly entitled to do. It's a political choice to be against or abstain or for, but be against without any other credible options from within all that process that we've put in place. And I feel as a council, we are a trendsetter in terms of the information given to members for budget setting, you know, much more ahead than any other councils. So where do you think we can improve to make that FSWG more productive so that members come to the chamber, you know, hopefully, but fully tested on what they want to see in the budget?
Just to make members aware, we have had a debrief with group leaders, which I thought was productive, just to share experiences from the night. I also reflected that the joint scrutiny session we had, I thought was probably one of the best we've had in 3 and a bit years. Really good, constructive discussion, good intelligent questions, good open responses and debate. As officers, we provide information to all councillors. We're apolitical. So I thought as a process, crikey, we had loads of meetings. FSWG was a really good and as an exemplary offer, very inclusive, lots of questions. We might not agree on everything, but we're committed that we will carry that process on. We might refine it. We're open to new ways of working. I think there is an element, though, of just resetting expectations. You don't have to agree on everything, but at the end of the day, you have a legal duty to set a budget. And for whatever reason, we seem to have a problem on that night around agreeing to that. So I just think, let's move on, focus on the issues in the report, and build on the good work going on. And remember, you are in the public spotlight here. Our staff will be watching this sort of stuff. Other councils were watching that night. Of neighbouring councils, you might think, I want to team up with Peterborough as part of devolution discussions. Do not underestimate that. MHCLG were watching it. I had to tip them off the next day around how the meeting went. And I know that the panel changed their report that night from what they witnessed. So all I'm saying, let's move on.
If I could just add, maybe the conversation is needed in FSWG about what comes with the privilege of being on that group and having access to that information and having that information that you can share with your political group, to have that all the way through the year, to know what's happening. And that with that privilege comes the responsibility. And it's effectively a responsibility, and I know that constitutional experts disagree with me on this, but it's effectively the responsibility that all that joint work all the way through in this no overall control council results in the FSWG's view of what the budget needs to be, being handed to Cabinet to be agreed and to be brought to Council. So it is as much FSWG's budget as it is constitutionally is the Cabinet's budget bringing to Council. And if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Do not be in FSWG having access to all of that information and doing all of that work during the course of the year and then letting the Council down at the end by saying nothing to do with me, Gov. Because as Matt says, it doesn't reflect to the people of Peterborough all of the work that you did, all of the joint work, all of the member briefings, all of the questions that were asked and answered, all of the access that everybody had through scrutiny, through the member briefings, through FSWG. That is what makes it so disappointing, because you do all of the work. You work in an absolutely exemplary way, and then you make it seem as if it didn't mean anything.
Going to Councillor Jamil next, which doesn't affect your right to sum up if you're asking questions.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I was just asking about that paragraph you wrote again, and I asked this when you previously came about the all-out elections. Now, the political landscape has now changed with devolution and stuff. Do you think we as a council would still benefit from having those before we go down devote, or do you think it would have made a big difference if we had those? Because we could have ended up with the same, composition that we have today.
I think hindsight's always sort of like 20/20 vision, and I think if devolution is going to bring in anyway, you'd think, no, we wasted a load of money on that, didn't we? So I don't think it would necessarily have changed if you'd taken the decision, because if you think about it, when you did discuss and debate it, it was about bringing it in. It wouldn't have been in yet, and so therefore it would have been overtaken by events. And so there is still the panel members, particularly the panel member that leads on governance, always had a really sort of like strong view that all-out elections would be helpful. And I think that's underpinned by the fact that in devolution it will be brought in, it would be effectively imposed. But you probably saved yourself a lot of money by kicking the can down the road.
Okay, folks. I have Councillor Ray, Councillor Hogg and Councillor Hemorrhage on my list. Not seen anybody else, and don't wish to prolong matters more, so think, if you are going to speak, what you're going to say and so on. Councillor Hogg, you have already spoke once, but I will indulge you in a second. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and I must put my hand up at the right time because it's around a similar thing with the electoral arrangements. I'm not sure if it's just that the wording was a bit firm or if this is something that's definitely known and that I missed in the white paper. But I was quite surprised to see the bit that says, in the event that reorganisation involving Peterborough is proposed, commitment to all-out elections every 4 years will be a requirement. Is that something that is for certain? Is that something that will still be down to members of whichever that new council will be to decide? Or is that something that's pretty much outlined in the white paper that I missed? Because that seems very firm that you're not going to have a choice, it will be all-outs, when there's still so much up in the air at the moment.
It's a very good question, and I will sort of like go back and check, and we'll have that conversation on the April the 2nd panel if I can't sort of answer it in before. But the Andrew Flockhart, who is the author of this particular part of the report and has been the person talking about the elections all the way through, does actually does believe that this will be a requirement. Yeah.
Just to set that out, all the councils have been reorganised in recent years. All of them have got 4 years, and the expectation of the Boundary Commission is that is in place. But I think it's a fair point. I don't think it's crystal clear in the devolution white paper, but all the indications we're getting from the briefings around this on devolution is that they will expect this, and I don't think it'll be a choice.
Great. Councillor Hogg, be as brief as you can.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I feel that I need to address some of the comments in the report, but also some that have been made by my colleagues. Firstly, it says quite clearly in here that the onus for repairing the trust at the FSWG is with the group leaders that opposed the budget. And for the record, there was only one, and that was me. So I feel that it was aimed. I was the only group leader that voted against the budget. It's failing to acknowledge that there are other elements at play here, and that perhaps there needs to be change in how the FSWG operates, specifically around the details of budget savings. We spend a lot of time on some items and really no time on things that were far more substantial and far more important to the city of Peterborough. Regarding these, I just feel that this is bordering on bullying, that we are being told time and time again that this is a great privilege to be part of the FSWG and that you get special access. We play a part in that FSWG and we are committed to getting things across the line, and that's what we did. And the reason why we didn't come back with alternative suggestions, an alternative budget, was because by the time we realised that actually we'd fallen over, we hadn't quite crossed the line for us. There was a lot of detail that was still with questions, and I outlined every single, well, not every single one of them actually, where I outlined a good proportion of the issues that we had with the budget. Was very clear on the reasons why. It wasn't a complete dismissal of the budget, but it was enough. We felt that some of the parts was enough for us to tip into the not support, because there were too many questions, too many risks involved in that budget, and wasn't enough for us to be able to sign up against it. So going forward, we absolutely would like to be part of the FSWG and play a proper part in making sure that Peterborough gets the budget that it deserves. But we're not writing blank cheques. We're not going to sign up at the beginning of that process to say, at the end of the process, we'll absolutely vote for the budget, because whilst we are very keen to make sure that the city is sustainable and financial, what we can't do is we can't turn our backs on our residents and what our residents have to say about items in the budget. So that will always be the prevailing situation. We will always refer back to what do the residents that have voted for us as Liberal Democrat councillors, what do they want from us? And we were hearing a lot of disquiet around the budget. And I understand that there's a lot of really difficult decisions that were being made, but there were too many question marks. And I highlighted those in my report, and I stand by that speech that I gave on that night. I'm sorry that you're disappointed by that, but my priority is to my residents.
I think Matt has already made the point to you all that you have to look up and look out at the broader challenges and the broader opportunities for the future. If there's any criticism that's continued all the way through with the panel's view of the members of Peterborough City Council, where we hold you in really high esteem, but you can be incredibly parochial at times to your detriment. And there will never be enough time for a perfect budget that's got to deliver tens of £1 million worth of savings. You'll never get there. And you've only got 12 months from one budget to the next. Even if you're doing a 3-year budget cycle, you've only got a year to get that done. So it's never, ever, ever going to be perfect. And I think that there's a real danger of you throwing the baby out with the bathwater in relation to what you do through FSWG if you cannot sign up to the fact that you are collectively putting together the best budget you can in the time that's available and the circumstances that present themselves to you for all of the council to either agree with or abstain from. But voting against it particularly would appear as if there is something wrong with it and there's something better that could have been done. And you know, I am sure, through the work of FSWG, that there was if there were any of those bright ideas, they hadn't come forward yet. If there were any other alternatives, they hadn't been explored. You know that yourself, and I'm sorry if you feel bullied. You've consistently said over the last 3 years, Councillor Hogg, that whenever you talk to me, you feel as if you're sitting outside the headmaster's office, and I'm sorry for that. I can't actually change that. I think that's actually sort of like, you know, the nature of the beast and probably the nature of me. Well, I couldn't possibly comment. But it's a strongly held view that you do just every so often let yourselves down by not looking at the really big picture and the really big challenge, because the thing that somebody's bent your ear on, or is currently bending your ear on, somehow seems more important. And it's actually not. Those things do get sorted, even though it takes a long time, those things do get sorted eventually. They don't actually get sorted through the really big ticket budget making process. That's much, much, much more important and much more holistic.
Thank you. Councillor Hemorrhage.
It's a bit like going back to basics for me. So going back to the budget meeting, and I know a number of members sit on the FSWG working group and attend the all budget scrutiny meetings, where I attend the all budget scrutiny meetings. What could you recommend that we do different for next year's budget, so we don't have these different political shenanigans going on, and to ensure that the majority of members are at that budget setting meeting? Because I am aware it was half-term week, so that's probably why a lot of other members weren't there. So what would you recommend that we do different to ensure a budget goes through with the majority of members without being scraping through? Thank you.
Well, the budget set in the previous year was unanimous, so you all know yourselves how to do it. And the issue around sort of like half term is unfortunate, but I do think that, you know, it is one of the single most important meetings of the council diary, and therefore it is a bit sort of like surprising that so many people couldn't come and couldn't make arrangements. And if half term, for example, was an issue, then I think the council should have put on a childminding arrangement within the building for people to be able to bring their children and have them looked after and occupied and kept happy and safe and entertained while the council meeting was going on. The other thing that I would say is that there was really good attendance at the budget scrutiny. There was really good attendance at the all-member briefings, and for everybody to individually take on board not just attending, but really genuinely listening, really genuinely asking the questions, really genuinely getting the answers to the questions that you're being asked, so that you know the lie of the land. When we first started this process, one of the first things we did was speak to all of the group leaders about the pretty disastrous budget process that you had before. And this, you know, you're million miles sort of like better now. One of the councillors said, "A confused mind says no." And that's really sort of like stuck with me, because people weren't being given the information, they weren't being given access to being able to sort of like genuinely understand the challenge, genuinely understand the balance in that, genuinely understand how the numbers worked, and that you're just robbing Peter to pay Paul when you're working within a finite budget, so you've got to actually work it through properly. So I think that you have all of those mechanisms in place, you have all of those arrangements in place, but each individual needs to actually sort of like challenge whether they're still confused and whether they've got questions that they need to be answered. And I think that the Office of Commitment has been there all the way through in relation to wanting to answer people's questions. But practical things in relation to avoid it, you can't avoid it if you're ill, but practical things in terms of making arrangements to have less apologies for absence, which may have a particular cause that everybody could point to. And if many of those 9 were in that position that in relation to sort of like half term, then I think you could actually look at some things that could help with attendance.
Councillor Cahill.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I just realised actually this is for asking questions and not for making comments, isn't it? So I don't really want to.
Well, we've suspended standing orders, so in my view, you can say what you like.
Oh, thank you. I just really wanted to carry on the point that Eleanor has made regarding what we see in terms of the collaborative and cohesive culture that we saw in FSWG and the contrary that took place at the budget. And I think that it's about a developing culture. I think that it was quite actually stark to see a somewhat flip in an objective where members had decided to either not agree with the budget. But I do think that there should probably be conversations around how we can improve on those relationships. And I just wanted to say, if anybody was interested in shadowing me as a portfolio holder, I'd be more than happy to show them some of the work that we do, and doors are open. I just wanted to make that offer. Thank you.
Anybody else for any more? Oh, Councillor Wiggin.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. First, an observation. Councillor Howard said about how we're going back to how we were 4 or 5 years ago, but actually 4 or 5 years ago we had a budget meeting where the debate was opened, seconded and then closed without any members being able to comment against it. So I think we've come a million miles since then. We are able to debate our differences in the chamber without being shut down by one particular political group. And you know, the FSWG was a result of that, and you, Mr Deputy Mayor, were integral in bringing that together. And as you keep saying, it is one of your key achievements for when you were leader of the council. But what I'm hearing doesn't match my experience of being on the FSWG. It's not that we all agree in all the meetings. We don't. We challenge. As a Liberal Democrat group, we challenge a lot. I mean, with Christian, you know what he's like. I challenge. We had Nick Sanford on it previously. You know, we ask difficult questions, and sometimes you don't like the questions we ask, and I've got that response, and that's fine. That's it. It's a democracy. We're here to ask questions, and I feel like we're being told tonight that we shouldn't be doing that. We should just be agreeing along the path, and the terms of reference for the FSWG and the way the budget is set out in the Constitution are very clear, and they do not align with the vision that you've explained that you saw for the FSWG. So should we be changing our Constitution to match that, so that actually the terms of reference for the FSWG say what you wanted for them and what the improvement panel wanted for them?
No, we're not saying that at all. And I think that the FSWG is a forum for those difficult questions, and is a forum for people to be able to be sort of like putting forward alternative views or alternative options in relation to, I don't think we should be saving here, I think we should be saving there, and you know, all of that sort of work. That's absolutely the forum for it. I think it's for you to have a debate in FSWG in relation to its terms of reference about what the responsibility is to be on there. It is to provide that challenge, and it's to make the budget the best budget that it could be in the circumstances that face you in that year. And that's what I think that it's about. And I think that it becomes incumbent on the members of FSWG to be bringing the views of their group, to be bringing the challenge that it would be sort of like their manifesto, if you like. That's actually the purpose of it, in order to be able to make sure that it's as holistic a budget as it can be. Moving forward. The worst case scenario in FSWG is you do all that work and then it goes into a cabinet meeting and they completely sort of like, top and tail it and change it all sort of like completely. That didn't happen here. I think that would be a different breach of trust. But I think that there was a breach of trust in relation to all of the work that had gone on, and then whole, and then sort of like wholesale opposition to the budget and wholesale. Just sort of like running the risk of the budget being completely rejected, when having worked on it for a year, it was pretty obvious that on that night you weren't going to be able to find any alternative budget to be agreed. So you weren't going to be in a position to set a lawful budget unless all of the people who'd voted against it just suddenly changed their mind and voted for it or abstained. It was game playing, and it was inappropriate for all of the work that all of you had put in all year on the financial position. That's the view of the panel. And that was our job, to provide that challenge to you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Eleanor. Members, I'm going to draw the debate to a close, but just a few remarks from me, because I just sum up my bits before I return to Jamil and Dennis, because we need to formally close it. In the sense that Councillor Hemiraj, although she's nipped to the ladies, talks about shenanigans. And I think Councillor Wiggin also talked about shenanigans. The way to avoid shenanigans is have 31 seats in this chamber. That's how you avoid shenanigans. So when we opened and closed the budget that year, it was because I've sat here for 19 years with shenanigans. And soon as you get into a position of no overall control, which it talks about in the report, that's when it starts to get tricky. And again, for the record, I said at the council meeting, we would be the grown-ups, which is why I voted for the budget. I think Lynn did, I think John did, and Rangzeb voted for it, because I consider that was the grown-up sensible thing to do for the council in the light of having no alternative on the table. Now, we voted for the previous budget, which keeps being lauded as unanimously. It's not necessarily because we agreed with it, given the way that the Conservative group had been treated, particularly. You can either agree with that or don't, because again, it was the grown-up thing to do. Because in part, we developed that budget all the way through to November. So why would we vote against something that we had developed? But you've got to have everybody swimming in the same direction. That rarely happens in the council in all the time I've been involved. And I don't agree with Councillor Hogg that there was, we don't have to debate it, Christine, I'm just saying I don't agree, that everybody didn't have ample opportunity to ask any question they wanted of officers to clarify anything before we got to the position of that council meeting, or that you made known before the meeting which your position was in order to overcome any reservations or objection you had to the budget, rather than making that decision on the night or just announcing it. So Eleanor set out numerous reasons as to why, and I think again when we talk about it's very easy. I hear it all the time. We'll do what our residents want. Now, that's great, and it sounds marvellous. It's a great soundbite, but people elect you to make decisions on their behalf. And unless you get the chance to canvass every single person in your ward, how do you know, other than the half a dozen people that may be moaning to you at that time about a particular thing? So you have to get your head out of your navel and look at the big picture in terms of what's best for the city. And that's what we should do as responsible politicians, but have answers for people, because at the end of the day, we are in a far better position to understand the global picture of the council and the budget and its implications, rather than parochial issues that we can get wrapped up in as ward councillors with a few individuals. I'm not saying we shouldn't try to, do what we can for residents, but we can't please everybody all at the same time. I would also say, just winding up, I'm also disappointed. I agree with Councillor Farouk in terms of the question he asked about the innovation reserve. I questioned numerous times what had we got for the money, and I don't believe I received a satisfactory answer on that in FSWG from the Section 151 officer. In terms of all the other bits in 132 and 133, I think the panel have made their position clear, and we're going over old ground, in that it was disappointing that we've moved back to a political position of parties and, you know, what it looks like to the public when you pick out things on there. The important point in this report for me is recommendation 1. What action is the Cabinet going to take? And the Cabinet need to lay out clearly what they're going to do in response to this report and what action they're going to take in response to the concerns within it. And that can be everything within the budget, the reserves, all the other things. And a clear plan needs to be articulated as to how we're going. Because if we come to next year's budget, in my view, it ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. That's all I've got to say, Ellen. And I just wanted to know, in terms of any question, that to me is the key. Would you say that's one of the things? What is the council going to do? Or the administration? Because the council might agree it, but it's led by the administration.
I think the decisions around what is the role of FSWG, to what extent is the Cabinet prepared for FSWG to continue to have access to the information that it has and to work in the way that it does. I think it would be a huge pity if it didn't continue. But it is for the Cabinet to determine whether the terms and conditions, whether the terms of reference for FSWG and the terms of reference for the membership of FSWG remains. And I think that we as a panel do think that FSWG is a really phenomenally good thing, and we do think that it should actually be strengthened in relation to looking in much more detail at the savings, for example, and the achievement of the savings and the dashboards on the savings, and looking at the forecasting of capital spend, and looking at the use of reserves, and looking at the really truly innovative work that could be done on transformation. So it would be better to expand it, but you can't expand it if you can't trust the people on it. And that's the conundrum that Cabinet are going to have to take back to consider in terms of how to move forward.
One final comment I forgot to include. There was a question about what we do in terms of the Constitution. Our legal officer says he agrees that the Constitution should be updated to include that terms of reference, or make sure it's embedded within it. Not just for that reason, for a number of reasons that he said that, but he was being shy tonight. He felt he'd overdone himself at the last meeting. So he stayed quiet. Now, members, I'm just going to go to Councillor Jamil. You reserve your right to speak formally on the actual proposal. Do you wish to say anything else?
No, I think we've got other stuff to debate as well,
Okay.
so I'm happy to move on.
Dennis, would you like to say anything? Or?
Yeah, I think it behoves me to say something, obviously, with what's gone in. I can't remember the musical, but there's a song, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And I think that's particularly apposite tonight. The danger is what we do is we go over old ground. I'd like to thank Eleanor tonight particularly, because the aphorism, heating kitchens, comes to bear. We need to revisit the terms and conditions. We need to have a look at how we go forward with the FSWG, you know, because nobody needs to hide their light under a bushel. This is your time to come out and say, you know, this is what we want, this is what we need. Why? Because we ain't got overall control. And we haven't got the monopoly on wisdom either. The second thing I'd like to say is that a couple of years ago, my mentor, somebody who's well known to you, Peter John, we had a problem within the Labour group about navel gazing. We're looking down. And you mentioned navels as well. And we looked up, we looked out, we had to. And I have to say, we also changed our standing orders because we had a lot of absences in the first part of Q4 of the year. And I have to say I'm immensely proud of the group for the fact that we've actually stuck to this and stuck together. It's not perfect. They have questions and it behoves local government. Matt will know, I'm living with this hourly, daily, weekly. and not everybody is aware. And sometimes, please forgive me, forgive us, if we don't always give the answers. But what I would say is that we have changed our standing orders. We don't have the absences. We turn up to the meetings, and I'm immensely proud of the support I've had from the group. And in 2 years, we are leading a minority administration on our own, with nobody else. But what I did say at the beginning of the meeting is thank you to the people who have stepped up on the ESPOs and the combined authority, because these guys knows what it's like to lead an administration with 8 people. And so I would have loved that when we came to the budget, we go, yeah, okay, you know, we're not always happy, but we'll give us the benefit of the doubt. And I do appreciate, Eleanor, the fact that you've been very forthright, very supportive and very direct, and I don't need to add any more on that, it's already been said. But we will visit the terms and conditions, we will keep FSWG going, and let's have a look to see how we can make it better so that in a year's time we can have a budget that goes through and restore the now battered reputation of the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Members, there are 2 recommendations in that. You've heard from everybody. We have given that a good debate. Is that all agreed? Yep, everybody's agreed that. Thank you very much. Now, I am told, because we've gone over slightly, in terms of, thank you, Eleanor, in terms of, would anybody like a break? Because people can go to the loo as they like. We've not stopped that. Or should we press on and get the remaining items done? Press on? Nobody's saying any different? Okay, press on then. I've offered a break, so nobody wants it. So, because I think most of these will go through quite quickly. The pay policy, which is item 13B. Councillor Jamil, would you like to move the recommendations?
I'll be happy to move recommendations. I have a spiel that people want to hear, but if we're happy to agree it, then...
Okay, well, I'm just going to get your second first. Councillor Jones, Alison Jones, would you like to exercise your, move this, second it, and exercise your right to speak or speak later?
Yeah, I'll second it and speak if needed.
If needed.
At some point.
Okay, let's see. All right. Is there any debate or questions on the pay policy, which is an annual report, all very transparent? I don't think it'll be long, though. Councillor Hogg.
Sorry, I'm going through the report. It lays out in Table 1 about pay awards made during the year. And the first item on that is the Joint Negotiating Committee for Chief Executives of Local Authorities, and it says an increase of 2.5%. But I come to the figure that is quoted on page 148, and it seems to be a 7.6%. So I'm just trying to work out how that works.
Well, I should ask Councillor Jamil or Councillor Jones, do you know the answer?
I'd have to look into that and get back to you on that one.
I'm being told it might be increments, but somebody will get back to you on that particular point. Is that okay?
Yep.
All right. If somebody made a note of that. Right. I didn't see anybody else wishing to say or speak, so is that agreed, everybody? Agreed?
Agreed.
All agreed? Fine. Thank you very much. Obviously, subject to that point being answered. Item 13C is the report of the Independent Remuneration Panel. Councillor Jamil, as Cabinet Member for Corporate Finance and Governance, would you therefore like to move the recommendations of the draft Independent Remuneration Panel?
I certainly would, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I have a few words, about a page and a half, if people want to hear.
Okay. It's all right. I've got 2 Joneses in this. It's so I'm after Dennis Jones now. It's just Councillor Dennis Jones. Will you second the recommendations? And I'll speak now and reserve your right to speak later on the debate.
Happily second and reserve my right to speak.
Okay, members, we've received an amendment on this item from Councillor Heather Skibstead. Councillor Skibstead, would you like to move your amendment, please?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll do that now, shall I? Or?
Yeah, you can speak or you can wait. Do you want to say anything more?
I can speak, yeah.
Well, if you want to explain what your amendment is, that might be helpful.
Yes. For clarity, I brought this amendment not to question anything to do with the amount of money anyone should be paid. nor is it related to the suggested increase in group leaders' allowances. The decision will potentially affect any smaller group on the council. The section I've highlighted is about the calculation of how opposition leaders' expenses should be paid, and the original document stated that groups needed to be 6 or more, which is 10% of council members, for eligibility of an allowance of any kind. I'm unaware of how the criteria came to be set in this way, but I know from my own group that our leader, a group of 5, goes to exactly the same amount of meetings as all the other group leaders, and this can amount to extra work of 15 to 20 hours a month. There can be a variety of small groups on councils, and I believe that even small groups where leaders are part of all these meetings should also, on a pro rata basis, be eligible for some of this SRA alongside his or her colleagues. Is it fair to ask a leader of a small group to attend, often at short notice, group leaders' meetings, but not receive any allowance, but other group leaders doing the same do? So this is the reason I've asked for the 10% to be reduced to 5%, which converts a minimum group size of 3 members for eligibility of this allowance. I know this is the case on other councils, and I think this is fair and reasonable, and why I ask members to please support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hogg, are you offering to second this, I understand?
I am indeed, and I would like to exercise my right to speak. If
Now.
That's okay.
That's
Please,
fine.
The Liberal Democrat doesn't normally comment on changes to council allowances, as we feel that we should be independent to the process. We are in agreement that the IRP process is the way to go, with allowances being indexed to staff salaries in between reports. However, there is this change regarding group leaders' allowances that is looked to reduce the eligibility only to those groups with 6 or more councillors. Despite all group leaders attending all the same meetings, this amendment doesn't have a financial difference to the council. It's just about splitting up the allowance that is available across all of the group leaders. And so therefore, you know, a group with 3 councillors will essentially have half of what a group of 6 would have. I'm not sure where the panel plucked this figure from, and they haven't sought to lay out their rationale. It does seem to be trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist. So let's just put this right. Thank you.
Right. Okay, so we have that amendment. Is there anybody who wants to talk about it? Debate it? Not necessarily. Councillor Ray. Yep.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I think I'd like to go on and agree with the first portion of Councillor Hogg's statement of the fact that my view is very much that this is something that, as councillors, we all get in the ear quite a lot, and we definitely hear a lot on social media about our pay, how much we receive, votes, allowance, how we are remunerated in general. And I think the one safety net, if you like, that we always have is that we are not the ones that have made these recommendations. We are not the ones that have made the decisions, or maybe we make the decision, but we don't make the sort of recommendations based on evidence. We leave that to an independent group. And for me, I think we just start opening a can of worms if we start tinkering with those recommendations. At the minute, it may be something that's small, but I think it opens the door to a lot of potential alterations and amendments going forward, and just sets that precedent that we may choose our own course, and takes away that one bit of feedback that we have for residents to go, this was the recommendation. So for me, I can't support any amendment, not just this one, not just based on what it may be, but I think there's an independent panel, we have them there for a reason, and they make this report based on that, so I won't be supporting the amendment.
Anybody else for Councillor Jones?
Yeah, quite simply, we've given the group a free vote on this because there's 2 schools of thought. That's one, and I get exactly where you're coming from, which is it is independent. The second one is equally having a group leader and preparing for these meetings. I know exactly what's involved. So we've allowed a free vote, absolutely a free vote on this for people knowing where. I mean, you're not disadvantaged, thankfully, because of you have an SRA, but the principle of it, I'm sure that they would be minded to revisit on the proviso that they're minded to revisit without actually upsetting the apple cart. I don't see a problem with us changing that amendment, but I'll leave it to members to decide.
That is it. So, we need to have a vote because I see some dissent. Yeah. No, I'm saying we're heading to a vote, but I'm going to do the summing up. But I don't, because it's not, in other words, it wasn't agreed. Right, okay. So in which case then, I'd go back to Councillor Hogg. Oh no, you've spoken, sorry. Councillor Skipstead then. You can sum up if you want to. Or
I
say
haven't
nothing.
really got much more to say other than I understand where Councillor Ray is coming from, but this isn't about the money. This is about a principle of calculation, which I would say was that's all I would say about that. So I would just ask people to note that and to vote for the amendment. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Are we electronic voting? We are. So Rachel will explain to you what's going to go on. We're going to the electronic voting. Rachel.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, we're now using the electronic voting. It's green for in favour, it's red against and yellow to abstain. So we're voting on the amendment from Councillor Skibstead. The vote is live. Thank you, councillors. The result is 26 in favour, 23 against, and there were 2 abstentions. Therefore, this is carried. So we're now, as the amendment has now been agreed, we will now move to debate the recommendations as amended.
Can I just ask, is that agreed? No debate? We're happy with that? All agreed, Rachel. There you go, it's simple. Right. I will remind you all that standing orders are still suspended for the next item, 13D, which is the local government reorganisation. Councillor Jones, would you like to move the recommendations for local government reorganisation?
I would indeed, Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Lovely. Councillor Jamil, were you happy to second it? And speak now or reserve your right to speak?
I am happy to second and I reserve my right to speak.
Okay. So again, pretty much like before, as standing orders are suspended, you can comment, you can ask questions, but time is pressing on. Not wishing to stifle debate or stop anybody speaking, but please be to the point and brief. Anybody? Councillor Wiggin. Sorry, was that agreed? I think he said agreed before you put your hand up.
That'd be the first time he's agreed with me. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to ask a question. We've had the briefing as councillors, and we all understand the process and where we're heading. And I'm happy with what's in the paper. There's still a lot of uncertainty as to where we're going to go, and I look forward to that being worked out. And all I'm going to say is I'm glad I'm not having to thrash all that out as Councillor Jones is, but I'm sure he's doing a wonderful job representing us. The point I wanted to make is that at the budget scrutiny meeting, I raised in the risk register that are we not considering that there is a risk to local government reorganisation? And I was told no, whereas this paper very clearly sets out the strategic and implementation risks associated with local government reorganisation. So are we planning to review our risk register to add that in?
Presumably Matt can answer that, I would have thought.
We were looking at the risk register on Tuesday at corporate leadership team and actually made that very same point, that actually because of the local government reorganisation and the health organisation going on at the moment, I think it needs to be reflected in our risk register. I think it's a very valid point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I get... Oh, Councillor Ray, I think. No. Oh, sorry, Councillor Day, sorry. Nicola Day, sorry.
Oh, I just think it was really interesting to see the letter, and I'm quite supportive of the way it was written, because whilst it doesn't completely, put some ideas out there, we're also saying that there's going to be some issues around this now as well. So I just wanted to support what was written in the letter, so thank you.
Okay. I don't have anybody else wishing to speak, which is probably a good thing at this late in the day. We've had plenty of time to look at this. We've had briefings on it. We've had all sorts of things on it. And there'll be more briefings. Obviously, this is only the stage one. So Is that agreed, ladies and gentlemen? No? It's agreed. You don't want to say anything, either of you? No?
I was just going to say there's going to be plenty of scope to speak as the process goes, so this is
Sure.
just the start of the process.
I thought it might be agreed. There we go. Right. We're swiftly coming towards the end. And we have 13E, which is the Children's Improvement Board update, presented by Councillor Ellis. Oh, sorry, Councillor Cole. I just thought of shake him up a bit.
Agreed. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and through you. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of my fellow Cabinet Member for Adults and Health, Councillor Shabina Qayyum, and myself to thank all the hard-working social workers who support vulnerable adults and children in this city. This week is National Social Care Week, and without these hard-working professionals, vulnerable children and adults in Peterborough would struggle. In January, Ofsted completed its second monitoring visit of our children's services, and I'm pleased to be able to report back to you this evening on our progress. This visit focused on the Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, or MASH, which brings together colleagues from the police, health and the council to manage safeguarding referrals, as well as our assessment teams and the emergency duty team, which is responsible for providing an out-of-hours service in situations where there is a real and immediate threat, for example, to life or safety. I'm pleased to be able to share that the letter received on the 20th of February highlighted the work to enhance children's services in Peterborough is delivering promising signs of improvement for young people. One of the most notable achievements recognised during the inspection was the successful establishment of the MASH last August. Inspectors found this service is now functioning effectively, which is a remarkable achievement in such a short time. Inspectors also recognised the role of the new and stable leadership team, led by an experienced and committed Director of Services, John Gregg, which has been instrumental in driving improvements. According to inspectors, the focused approach of the leadership team, supported by the Improvement Board and myself, has resulted in a growing momentum for positive change. Outside of the scope of the inspection, work to improve services for children and families in Peterborough is ongoing and continues to be monitored through the Improvement Board. In January, the House project launched, as many of you may be aware. We're the first authority in the East of England to launch such a project, and last week, the Director for Children's Services presented this project to the whole of East Anglia's lead members. Each young person who takes part in the scheme will receive community-based support tailored to their needs, helping to prepare them for independent living and assist with general life skills, such as managing finances and decision-making. I'm looking forward to seeing the positive impact this will have on our care leavers. I'm also pleased to share that the Mockingbird model has now been launched within the fostering service. This is an innovative approach to foster care that emphasises extended family support and is designed to strengthen the bonds between children, young people and foster families. It is based on the concept of an extended family with a constellation of foster families surrounding the home, providing a network of support and resources. This represents our commitment to foster care by putting relationships and community at the forefront, creating a city where everybody feels valued, cared for and understood and lives within a family that is similar to their own ethnicity. We have also received feedback on our accelerated progress plan. This plan aims to address areas of concerns identified in SEND inspections, ensuring that local authorities take swift and targeted action to improve the quality of SEND provision. The review found that significant progress has been made since the last review, with commendable improvements driven by strong partnerships and effective co-production. The review found that a clear shared vision and cohesive collaboration between parents, carers and educational settings have strengthened the system. The progress made in Peterborough's Children's Services over the past year is commendable, and we should take a moment to recognise the dedication and hard work across the service. However, we recognise that a significant amount of work lies ahead and that we cannot afford to be complacent. Continued corporate support, strategic investment and strong multi-agency collaboration will be essential in ensuring that our services can provide the highest standard of care and protection for the children and families of Peterborough. I continue to urge members to maintain their commitment to this critical area of work. Let's continue to support the improvements being made and work together as a council to address the remaining challenges. Every child in Peterborough deserves to grow up safe, supported and with the opportunity to thrive.
Thank you, Councillor Coles, for that update. Now, members, the most remarkable thing of the evening has happened. Before we wind the meeting up, do you know what it is? No pink cards. Not a one. All night. Which was truly remarkable. So before I wind things up, I'm sure we all wish Marco well, and he's hopefully recovering. I think he's able to resume duties on Monday. Want to wish Judy all the best. Hopefully she'll be next sat in this chair and we won't have another one in between. But you never know, as the legal officer just pointed out to me. So I think that's our last meeting of this municipal year. So thank you all for attending this evening. It concludes the meeting, and I wish you all a safe journey home, or for those that are buying Dennis a drink, he'll no doubt be next door. Thank you all very much, everybody.